Hello, everybody. This is Coresair Mack, President of the Illinois Mental Health Counselors Association. And today I am joined by our very own and first school counselor interview, Tiffani Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Yep, I am doing good. I am doing good. Thanks for asking. It's almost 46 degrees outside. The sun is shining. I ate lunch. I feel energized and I feel ready. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Surprisingly, I haven't been outside yet, so I'm gonna have to go after this. It's one of those Sundays.
it's one of those Sundays.
Yeah.
100% understandable. All right, so before we begin our interview, just to give everybody a little bit of background, Tiffany and I, we have a little bit of a background together because we both went to the same counseling program together. And I think we were in the same, what, not group counseling, but
Let's
where we did,
cover
okay,
that. It
yeah,
was a
that's fair.
lot, a lot.
It was a lot. That's fair. We were in a lot of classes together. That's true. All right, so all your fans want to know, how did you become interested in counseling?
I laugh because it's like, it wasn't the first thing on my mind actually. Um, I just always knew that I wanted to work in a school in some capacity, but teaching wasn't necessarily what I was thinking my ministry was. So I majored in psychology first, and because I do like learning about the brain and just how our minds work and how that influences our behavior. Um, and also I had to pick a major after a while and nothing really sounded interesting. So I chose psychology. And then it got to like the end of the program and or near my end of my senior year. And I started thinking about, okay, so what kind of jobs can I get with psychology where I'm still able to work with or for children in some capacity that has to do with education. So I was thinking like educational psychologist or I mean school psychologist or um I don't know. I was just trying to brainstorm where I'm looking. So when I started looking at like what you have to do to be a psychologist, I didn't really it didn't really call me. And then I can't exactly remember how I fell upon counseling, but even just looking at like the program and the classes that we would take and what school counselors do, because I really only interacted with my own school counselor probably like twice when I was in high school, other than she was our link crew leader, so she taught that class. But as like a school counselor, I didn't really know who she was or what she did in that aspect. So when I discovered the school counseling program, I was like, oh, this fits. Like this is a way that I can advocate for students, especially students of color, um, pretty much to get us, and I say us as in like people of color, get us into a place where we're successful, especially within a school system in which I don't think, well, which I know was not built for us. So helping students navigate through that in whatever way that I can. And school counseling seemed like the first step for me to do that.
All right, perfect. Well, I don't know how I'm going to transition into the next question because you gave such an amazing answer, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So, as you mentioned, you went to school, and I know you talked about this already, but what schools did you go to for your undergrad and your graduate degrees?
So for undergrad, I started out at Spelman College. So I went there for a year and then ended up transferring to Northern Illinois University, where I graduated with my bachelor's and then continued on to, well, I stayed at NIU and did my master's in school counseling. And then I just finished my second master's in educational leadership through American College of Education.
Oh, wow. Well, A, I didn't even know you went to Spelman. And B, congratulations on your second master's. I didn't even know
Thank you.
that either. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yep.
All right,
Just
very nice.
I'm done with school for a minute now, hopefully.
Hopefully, right, until you go back for that PhD.
We'll see. Yeah. Yep. I really have to like think about that. Like I really want to find something that is I love school. So that's probably why I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna be what do they call it? Like a lifetime student or a serial
Mhm.
student. Um, I think I just get intimidated with the PhD. So I might take classes or something and get another like certificate or something. But yeah, we'll have to just to look at what that PhD would be in.
All right, definitely. I can't wait to see it. It's gonna be amazing.
Thank
All
you.
all right. So, you know, you're doing a lot. Let me just put it that way. So, not just outside of school, but even when you were in school, right? You went, you took the classes, you put in the work, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the dedication, and then thankfully you graduate. Then you're
Hmm.
out there in the real world. So I guess the first question in regards to that is how long have you been doing therapy for?
So this is my 7th year as a school counselor. Uh, and I'm in my second school. So yeah, just 7 years.
All right. So, like I always tell people, I always count the practicum and internship that we do also. So, I mean,
Mhm.
if that adds on a year or a year and a half, definitely take credit for that as well.
8.5 then.
All right, perfect. There you go. 8.5 years. She has the knowledge and the experience. All right, so I'm going to flip some of these questions around, just the next two.
Mhm.
But ultimately, I know you were talking about this a little bit before, and true, it is February, Black History Month. And, just like I say in all my interviews, I agree that this shouldn't just be talked about in Black History Month. This should be talked about all the time. But since you've given us so much knowledge, wisdom, and information already, hopefully you can impart some more knowledge, wisdom, and information on us. So, what was your experience like as a Black woman starting out in the counseling field?
Um, it's still so the question was starting out. Feel like it's ongoing. Um, but I think so there's kind of like two parts because I've been at two different schools that are completely different as far as like population and school culture and things like that. So in my first school, I think I felt more comfortable and empowered as a Black woman and coming in as a Black counselor, because the population was more, well, it was basically Black and brown. um, and I knew that me being there and having my students see me in that position or a position like that, was powerful for them because I barely saw it until I went to college. um, Now since then, and even at that school, but like since then I've always had to be, um kind of like hypersensitive, hyper aware of myself as a Black woman, especially, well, not, yeah, especially with my age as well. So I have experienced different microaggressions with, uh my age, or being a woman and then being a Black woman on top of that. um but I still, so throughout all of that, I still try to remind myself of why I am where I am and why I'm doing it and who I'm doing it for, and the type of impact that even just me being in those spaces and me speaking up, has on not only the students but the other adults in the schools as well. So it's definitely been a journey. It's not a journey that is anything new for me. It's definitely been interesting having to navigate through that, in my career field compared to before. Like all of my experiences were mostly just as a student, or like part-time jobs and things like that didn't really, I guess, didn't really hit as much as it does when I'm like, okay, now I'm like a real adult and got a real job. And then especially I'm getting older and I'm seeing things differently. So yeah, so it's definitely ongoing, but yeah.
All right, very nice. Well, don't know how I'm going to, again, transition from that awesome answer, but I'm going to do my best here. All right,
You
so
do.
then with that and with your experience, just like you mentioned, you had to get out there and start working to gain those experiences and things like that. So, what places did you work starting off in your profession, and what did you learn as a result from working at those places?
Mhm. So my first school was North Chicago Community High School. So that was the school that was mostly, well, it was Black and brown, population, mostly low income, suburban, Title I, like everything. And that was like that was kind of like a dream school for me. That's why I think I was so excited to work there. But what I learned there, honestly, is to have patience, um, especially when I'm the type of person where I remember it might have been internship. My internship supervisor at NIU, she said like one of her feedback, like as I think it was like end of internship or whatever, and they give feedback on like who we are as a counselor or whatever. And she said that she appreciated that I always push past the status quo. And I kind of like, I love that she worded it like that, because I've always felt like the person that is always like literally like pushing for more, asking why do we do things the way that we're doing it, and is it actually helpful? And I feel like with especially working in schools, education moves so slow, like change moves so slow within schools and education. And it can be, for me, especially starting out and sometimes now, it can be frustrating to where we're sitting in meetings and we're identifying the issues, but there's always like 50 million other steps that we have to go through to before we can actually act on it, if that makes sense. So I've definitely learned patience, and to kind of turn my passion and frustrations and whatnot into action, but and then knowing how to be patient with it as well and working with others. And then I guess the other thing that I've learned as a school counselor and just working at both buildings is like honestly the power of like collaboration and working with others. So there was a lot at North Chicago, but because of the fact that it was like tier 1 and a turnaround school, like that type of thing, like there's always a crisis. So I kind of got in the habit of kind of just doing, and if I can't get other people on board, I just do it anyways. But at the school that I'm at now, where things are a lot more calm, it's a different population, higher income, everything like that. I'm seeing that not necessarily like, oh, I'm seeing the benefit of working together, but I'm finding out how I can slow down a little bit to be able to work with others and bring other people on board. And that goes with the patience, because sometimes, yes, I do get frustrated where the other people that I'm trying to bring on board to wrap around a student aren't working at the same pace as me, but I have to work with people as they are. So those are probably the two biggest things that I've had to learn and still continue to work through as a school counselor.
All right. I can 100% relate to, especially that last point where you're just trying to go, go, go. And then other people, you just look around, it's like, where are they at? I sent you an email 3 days ago and you haven't done a single thing to help out yet. What's going on? You just want to go,
Right.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Definitely. All right. So then, with that being said, just like I mentioned, you're a very busy person. You do a lot of stuff. And when I say a lot of stuff, I mean a lot of stuff. All right. So, also, you are a part of a lot of committees at school. So, I was hoping that you can speak to some of those committees and then also talk about one specific one in regards to, I think it's called the Culture and Climate Committee, and what your role is in that as well.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're probably going to ask me this later, but I'm going to answer it a little bit right now. One of the things that I would suggest that like anybody new in school counseling does, I guess, is getting involved in committees. For me, especially because I didn't start out as a teacher and I didn't work in a school before, other than like internships and practicum and whatnot. Being involved on committees has kind of helped me to also just get acclimated with whatever school I'm at in the beginning, and then just knowing what's going on. So, and there's a lot of, I haven't worked in a mental health setting or anything like that, so I don't even really know how it is, but at least in schools there's a lot of committees. Like that's how we team. There's a lot of teaming and in that way. So yeah, I've been on a lot of different committees. So right now I am on our building level equity leadership team. And then we have a district level equity leadership team that we just finished and developed an equity action plan. So now there's going to be other committees on that to tackle the equity action plan. So one of those that I'm on is it's called a heterogeneous classes committee, where we're looking at detracking students in classroom. What else? I just had a mind blank. I did. Culture and climate, that was at North Chicago. So that was more of like MTSS, so multi-tiered systems of support. Which, oh, I'm on that now at my new school. So yes, I'm MTSS committee.
Mhm.
Where it's pretty much like a systems of support for wrapping around students and moving them through different tiers of support and interventions. Um, I was the freshman on track coordinator and a freshman counselor at my previous school. So from that, I excuse me, I led freshman on track committee as well. So we were looking at data and analyzing the data and seeing what students needed support, but then also, well, what individual students needed extra support, but then also like what groups of students might need support at the tier 1 level of instruction. I think that's it. It's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot, right? And like I said, you're out there doing the Lord's work, so thank God for you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, in regards to committee in a community mental health agency or even in a higher education level setting, it's more of, yay, committees, but then who's actually going to do them? Because we don't have time to do any of that stuff on top of all the other stuff that we have to do. So it's
Yeah.
mainly just a voluntold type of thing in most cases.
Kind of the same, like yeah, it depends. So I think it depends on the school and the school's culture as well, as far as whether like teachers and other educators are more willing to just participate or if they're kind of voluntold. But the district that I'm in right now, they have a lot of committees compared to, well, it's a bigger district too, but I think for the most part the staff that are on the committees are actually on it because they want to work for whatever it is. So that also helps too when we're working together. So it's not working with angsty people that don't want to be there.
Right, that is true. All right, so I'm going to sidetrack just a little bit because you mentioned something interesting. So I just want to make sure. So are you teaching a class right now then?
No, no.
Okay, because you mentioned teaching. I was like, oh man, she's teaching too. Man, bless you for doing that on top of all the other stuff that you're doing.
I don't have enough time. Uh, are you talking about when I mentioned like the heterogeneous classes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, nope. It is full of teachers. They're starting with the English department, but since we're talking about heterogeneous classes, the director of equity wanted a heterogeneous committee too. So as a school counselor, I'm on that committee.
All right.
But
Well,
no,
but
I don't
no.
know how people do that.
Right. I know they offered or they approached me to teach a class on top of all the other stuff that I'm doing because I currently work at a community college. So they have those opportunities for us. And I was just like, no, that is too much work. I used to be a substitute teacher. Never again. Well, then again, those were kids, though. These are
Well, did you
adults.
teach at NIU? Did you do that for your hours? Oh, okay. So
Mm-mm.
I did actually. I almost forgot about that. It was okay.
Right. It was just okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would consider it again, honestly. I just couldn't teach at a high school level. So yeah, I would consider it like an undergrad community college or something like that. But for me personally, I think I just need more experience, not because like I don't have the experience, but I want more experience on working on like some of like the patients that I was talking about and like navigating different schools and different people. So but I think long term I could see myself maybe pursuing that.
All right.
Not
Definitely.
full time though.
Not full time, just adjunct.
No.
Okay. That's fair. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I understand. Trust me. I understand. All right. So I know you talked about all the different committees you're a part of, but at times, or at least in the community college and college setting, you could be like an advisor to different clubs or organizations around your school. So I was
Mhm.
wondering if you were a part of any other clubs or organizations or an advisor to any of those at your school that you currently counsel at.
Yep. I'm the co-advisor for our Black Student Union.
All
So
right.
it's our second year. We're getting there. It's interesting working with working with the kids at my school. Because like it's like they want us to have a BSU, and then they just like there's the disconnect between it being advisor led and student led.
Mm.
So we're trying to make that connection right now. So right now it's more advisor led, and we're trying to build up and the advocacy and whatnot for the kids so that they can start kind of functioning on their own with our support. But that's why I say it was interesting, because we were just talking about this like earlier this week.
All right, nice. So they need a little bit more work then.
Yeah, yep. But I'm just glad we're still providing that space for them. So we do a lot of different, we've planned a lot of different activities, and we've done a Black student workshop in our district, I think 3 times. So I was a part of 2 of them. So, and then they did one before I came. So we've offered that opportunity for them, which they really appreciate. And we've done different field trips, a Black History Month calendar that we've developed with different activities this month as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just getting them to meetings. That's the struggle.
Right. Do you think it'd be easier at your level as opposed to like college, university students who are like, I'm going to do my own thing? But
Mhm,
those students have to be there at that school from a certain time to a certain time. They can't just escape.
mhm.
So it's interesting that you mentioned it's a little bit difficult getting them to be at meetings, but I guess it's true at any level.
Yeah,
People be people.
yep. They'll say they come and then they don't show up. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Right. Exactly. All right. So this next question I'm about to ask, I've been purposely avoiding with everybody else because ultimately, when it comes to self care, you hear all the normal, nonchalant things. But you are a different case. I bet you're thinking, Corsair, why am I different? Well, just like I mentioned, you are the first school counselor that I'm interviewing for this channel. So I guess now I'm interested. What do you do for self care?
I'm working on it. Um, I read. Um, yeah, so I love reading. I have a bookstagram that kind of keeps that's my self-care to get out of like everything else. Um, what else do I do? Lighting candles. Okay, so this is the thing. That's why I laugh about it too, because I think when I hear self-care, and I think a lot of people when they hear self-care, they think that is like some grand act of doing something or whatever to take care of yourself. So, oh, I buy myself food, or I take a hot bath or whatever. But I'm realizing it could just be something simple where I'm like prioritizing myself in a small way. So reading is one of those ways. Lighting candles, or buying and lighting candles, that just kind of is a way for me to calm down a little bit. Um, what else do I do? I say no. That's my newest way of self-care, is
Mm.
um telling people no, because like you mentioned, I do a lot. And I hate talking about it because I'm like, man, I do too much sometimes. And I've had to eliminate some things in the last year because I was putting other things and other opportunities and other people before myself. And I started to feel that physically. So saying no, or at least thinking about it and saying I'll have to think about it or whatever, has been a form of self-care for me as well. And then as like far as my phone, I have like 4 different focus modes. So keeping my phone on do not disturb on some type of level where it's not always vibrating, that's self-care for me. Um, yeah. And then I'm trying to start using exercise as self-care, but it's not working very well.
Well, don't worry. We still got what? March, April, May, June, 4 more months until summer. So you still have
Yeah.
time to get your summer body.
I got to get on it though. Yeah. I missed it last year. So
That's fair. But it's interesting that you bring up this point. Self care is you prioritizing yourself. I don't think I've ever heard it being mentioned in that way. So that is interesting. And then you
mm.
mentioned a bookstagram. What is that?
I feel nerdy when I say that. I don't care. So Instagram page where I post books that I read and reviews and whatnot. And I don't know, I've always loved reading, and I I definitely I think I've been reading only books by Black authors for at least the last 5 years. I've made it might be longer than that actually. But I made that commitment of either books by Black authors or authors of color every once in a while. But it's just an Instagram account where I share what I'm reading, might do a little review. And then it's also an easy way for me. So it's kind of selfish, like twofolds, where it's like, yeah, I get to share with others what I'm reading and kind of give book recommendations, but and then also it's a way for me to connect with other people that are reading or find other books to add to my list. And um, oddly enough, you never know. Oh, maybe it's me. Maybe this is my nerdy moment. I do like looking at pictures of books. So
Oh,
I,
okay.
I don't know. I'll scroll on that more than I'll scroll on my personal page sometimes. It's kind of that's self-care for me though.
All right, definitely. No, nothing wrong with that. Didn't even know that was a thing until you mentioned it.
I don't know how I found out either, but been on it for over a year now. I think almost 2 years. Yeah, maybe.
All right, very nice. So you heard it here, folks. Check out the bookstagram, check out her reviews, and yeah, read a book that she's reading. Talk about it. Right.
Yep.
All right. So speaking of connecting, I want to make sure you have a chance to shout out your sorority that you're a part of. But also with shouting them out, how did you end up joining Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Inc.?
So I've always admired Deltas. Just thinking about like the history of how our sorority became to be, and I always describe it as us being like agents. So if anybody has a question about that, uh, I encourage you to look that up. Why I say that, but so it kind of it's always fit with like how I said earlier, where I'm always the person that's trying to push past what is or what we can always be doing more. We can always improve. Um, and for me it was important to be surrounded by other Black women that share the same values with that share the same values with serving our community and working for our community, but and then also like with education and whatnot. So yeah, I joined in the spring of 2018 in the Waukegan alumni chapter.
All right, very nice. So I guess I'll have to look that up then. You said change agents, right?
I say that you won't find it anywhere, but if you look at our history, you'll know why I say we were change agents.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. We got to look that up and figure out why that's in there. So, see, I appreciate you giving me some homework during my interview of you. See, that's great. I'm walking away with some stuff that I can do. But with that being said, all good things must come to an end because we are down to our final three questions.
hmm
All right. So, first out of the final three. So, is there anything that you like to tell people starting out in the school counseling field or have been in the field for a while?
I would say take your time. That's the advice I tell myself too. So take your time. And like I said earlier, join some committees that you feel like you would be interested in. I mean, I am, we said it before, I'm the one that does the most, so don't join as many as me. But if you could just find one that you don't feel like takes up too much of your time, because I know getting acclimated to just a new job and a new position is a lot as well. But I believe that it would also help with that transition and knowing the school and knowing who your students are. So be patient and join a committee.
All right, perfect. All right, so second to last question, before the most important one. Is there anything that you would like to say that I haven't had a chance to ask you about?
So I am okay, so you didn't know this either, probably. I am an affinity group facilitator with through Teach Plus. They're partnered with the Illinois School Board of Education. I just had a mind blank, that's why I had to say that slowly. ISB. Um
Mhm.
so this is their first year of a cohort of affinity group facilitators throughout Illinois, and we are basically forming affinity groups for educators, but and then also working towards the goal of identifying like reasons why or how to retain teachers of color or educators of color. So I've been leading that this year with my district staff of color group, and I absolutely love it. So that's kind of one of the other passions of mine, is just providing spaces for affinity groups, whether it's with students. I've done that a couple of times where I've had like a girls of color group or men of color group. And then I'm really enjoying being able to provide this opportunity for our staff of color as well.
All right, very nice. Yeah, you're right. I did not know that about you. So yeah, you are super busy. So then that makes me hesitant to ask this last question, but I feel like it's the most important one. So, where can people contact you or find you if they have any questions or they want to connect?
Well, you can send me an email at Tiffir, so TIFFIR .Scott at gmail.com. I know it's like the most difficult email to try to say. And then if you want to follow my bookstagram, it's on Instagram at blackbook.ish, so ISH.
All right, very nice. So, you hear to hear, folks. She will fit you into her busy schedule if you contact her. And yeah, follow that bookstagram. Well, if I had an Instagram, I follow it, but I'm old. I'm not that cool. I'm not that hip as
I
the
bet you have a
kids.
Twitter though, don't you?
Oh, no, I do not.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, maybe you are. No, I don't like
Oh,
Twitter.
I am super old. So,
I'm
yes,
on Twitter, but I'm not going to give that out because I'm never on it. So,
that's fair. All right. Other than that, that's it for this interview. Tiffany, thank you very much. We have to have you back on for part two. Now there are more things that I have to ask you about after we talk about some stuff. So I definitely need to prick your brain a little bit more.
absolutely.
All right.
We set it up. I'm open. Thank you for having me, though.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming on. I definitely appreciate it. All right, everybody. This is Coresair Mack, president of the Illinois Mental Health Counselor Association, signing out, and I'll see you in the next interview. Take care.